Thank you, everyone, for coming to our December 16th, 2019 regular meeting for Medina City Schools Board of Education. If everybody would rise and join me in the reciting of our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Eastwood.
Here.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Here.
Mr. Skidmore.
Here.
Ms. Pavlik.
Here.
Mr. Ross.
Here. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from November 18th, 2019, and the minutes from our work session on December 2nd, 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you.
With me being absent from one, do we need to separate that, or I read through everything, but okay. I second that.
Any board discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. Mr. Chambers.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye. I will make a motion for any, all right, let me see. Yeah, any additions, removals, or modifications this evening to our consent agenda? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve our consent agenda for this evening.
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Thank you all. Mr. Sable.
Good evening. I'm going to start off my communications with an item that's not on the agenda. I wanted to throw a salute out to Mr. Eastwood. This is my fourth year here at Medina City Schools, and I was fortunate to begin my journey as a superintendent with Doug being one of my first ever board members. And I can tell you that in the time that I've worked with him, he is the epitome of what a board member should be. Doug's passion and support for our kids, for our staff, is unmatched. The amount of emotion that he puts into the decisions that our board has to make is truly impressive. He's not always in agreement with everybody sitting up front here, but he's always willing to listen to the various sides and ultimately come to a decision that's best for kids. Medina City Schools and I personally really appreciate your dedication to this district. I know it's a district that you've grown up through. It's a district that you lived by as an adult. Your own kids went through Medina City Schools, and I have no doubt that you're going to continue to be a support, like through the facilities committee, for the Medina City Schools. And we have a little gift that I would like to share with you from the Medina City Schools this evening. And I am going to make you open them now. Yeah, you need to know that that hat traveled around the entire district over the past month. Yeah, deep breaths. I'm going to go a little bit out of order here this evening because we're waiting for some guests to arrive. But I would like to invite Sarah and Matt up to the podium. I think the board is aware that we had district representatives, which included board office administrators, as well as several of our principals from across the district, as well as teacher leaders that went down to Dayton last week in order to receive a PBIS award. In addition to that, they provided a presentation to districts from across the state, which I hear was very well attended. Thank you, Sarah.
Good evening. Last week, as Mr. Sable indicated, we had a chance to bring a team from the district to the state PBIS showcase. This is the 4th year that the Ohio Department of Education, in collaboration with the state support teams throughout Ohio, have been recognizing district and building level implementation of positive behavior intervention supports. PBIS is a tiered framework that allows us to think systemically and proactively of how to support all students academically and with pro-social behaviors. As part of the recognition process, they look at aspects of practice of how districts and buildings are supporting teaching those expectations, their systems for recognizing those expectations, and the use of data-based decision-making to determine how to move forward to support all students throughout their educational career. This year, advance to the next slide, the Ohio Department of Education instituted a district-level recognition award, and Medina City Schools was one of 11 districts statewide that was recognized for our district efforts in the implementation of PBIS. And we were the first district in Region 8 to be awarded at this level. So we're really proud of our district level team, the work that they have committed to over the past several years, and the supports that really has brought forth for all students throughout the district. In order for our district to be recognized at that level, we had to show accomplishments of having a district level team, which is a very unique process for districts. As I said, only 11 in Ohio was able to show evidence of that work. And we have to show that we are using data as a district to really drive those decisions. So we were excited to be a part of the first year of this award and to be recognized in this way. So in addition to our district level award, we had an opportunity to recognize the efforts at our building level, and Matt is going to share with you the awards that were provided.
So good evening. As Sarah was saying, PBIS is a tiered framework, so we operate on 3 tiers. Tier 1 being interventions and supports for all students. Tier 2 targeting specific groups of students that may need, additional supports. And then Tier 3 focused on individual students and the supports that they may need. So at this point, we have 5 buildings across the district who have been recognized at the Tier 1 level, which is the bronze level, and that's AI Root Middle School, Canavan Elementary, Evolve Academy, Sidney Fenn Elementary, and Heritage Elementary. And at the Tier 2, or the silver level, we have Northrop Elementary and Garfield Elementary. So we're very proud of the work that these buildings have done to provide those supports for students. We're very passionate about this work because so often we have kids coming into our district that are facing challenges and unique behavioral challenges that we had not seen in years past. And for many kids, school is the place of stability. It's a place where they can look forward to consistency, proactive expectations, and positive support. So we feel very strongly about this work. And then finally, I just wanted to acknowledge the team that we sent last week. We sent a team of our building principals representing elementary and secondary, in addition to our district behavior specialist, Mrs. Gina Trush, and our administrative intern at Garfield and Fenn, Gretchen Newton, in addition to Kim Halleck from Northrop, Brian Condit from Canavan, Brian Farson from Root, and then Sarah and myself and Tina also were all in attendance. And just I want to point out, Sarah touched on this a little bit, but in order to be recognized on the district level, we had to have certain things in place. And one of those things was having at least 60% of our buildings recognized on Tier 1 as a bronze level. So that was the first criterion. We also have to have a district level team in place, which we do, and we meet quarterly with a team of our building principals to collaborate around the work we're doing with PBIS and to look at district level data, which oftentimes we'll see PBIS teams in other districts looking at building level data, but we think it's important to take a more global view and really look at behaviors across the district. We also had to have an identified PBIS behavior goal for the district, which we have as a DLT or a district leadership team priority. And really our goal being focused around reducing suspensions, expulsions, increasing attendance, and leadership opportunities, acknowledgement of our students and all the great things that they're doing. Additionally, we had a goal in place that we would have buildings at 70% implementation of the framework across the district, Tier 1 framework, and we were successful with 7 of our 11 buildings in that effort. And finally, district support of building implementation. We had to show evidence that the central office team is invested in supporting our principals and supporting our teachers in this work. So we make good effort to be in attendance at building level PBIS meetings and to provide the supports necessary so that our buildings can be successful. So with that, are there any questions? Thank you.
Yeah, the amount of work and dedication that's gone on with the PBIS programming in our district has really been impressive, and it's an area that we should be proud of. We are leading the state with our PBIS initiatives, and those are things that really go staff, students, it covers the whole gamut of people involved in the school district. And I really thank our curriculum department for taking a leadership role in working with the PBIS initiative. My next item, I just wanted to give a quick update on facilities and redistricting. I shared the timeline at this past month's work session in terms of what we're looking at moving forward. I wanted you to know that we are actively engaged in that timeline. We have, over the past month, been interviewing architectural firms. At this time, we've met with 5 different architectural firms to come in and work with the district. And just to remind you, their role would be to be advocates for the school district in working with the Ohio Facilities Construction Council. They would go back through the report and make sure that all the information provided by the OFCC is accurate and that there's nothing missing within that report. They would also help guide us with a potential bond issue moving into next school year and assist us in making decisions regarding the direction of the district, not only with construction, but with potential redistricting as well. And like I mentioned in the past, that's going to be a collaborative process with students, staff, community, parents. So the goal right now, we're in the process of talking, us being the COAT team, in regards to the architects that we saw, and I'd like to invite one of them in at our next meeting, our January meeting, to present to the board. And I'm hoping to have a formal board recommendation after further conversation with the board following that January meeting. And if there aren't any questions, I'm going to turn over Mr. Chambers.
Yes. On a yearly basis, we have our investment advisor come in and not only speak to the board, but also to the finance committee. And so we were going to have him here at the work session, but things didn't work out quite correctly. And he was more than happy to redo his plans and come in and give us all a little information about our current portfolio. So without further ado, Ryan Nelson from Red Tree Investments.
Good evening, and thank you, David. It's good to be back here. Always nice to be back every year, invited back every year. It's a good sign, right? First and foremost, best wishes to you, Mr. Eastwood, on your next career and endeavors. It's been a pleasure working with you over the past 5+ years. Well, we are here again for the annual update for investments for the school district, and usually we run through kind of what's going on with the economy that's affecting interest rates and thus investments, talk about the investments and the results of that. So that's our layout here today. Ryan over here is my moving the slides along for me, so hopefully we're Ryan, so we should be working in coordination, right? So everything should be moving along with that. Just real quick for the board and for the group here, a reminder about who we are. We're Red Tree Investment Group. We are a firm that has a sole focus of investing funds for public entities across the state of Ohio. We manage a little over $4 billion here in the state of Ohio, and we work with about 160 schools or career centers across the state, so many of you all with the same concerns. And we're located in Cincinnati, Ohio, which had snow yesterday, and you all didn't, so even in the southern part gets snow. On the next page is the investment team. Myself, I'm generally here at the board meeting, but everybody there on the screen is assists the district with investments and reporting, and David knows most of those folks from different events. On page 5 is how we came to be here at Medina Schools. This partnership began in June of 2014, where we were contracted to work as an investment advisor and assist the treasurer's office on investing and many other questions that come up, and as a resource to David and his staff. For the portion of funds that we assist on, it's right around $22 million, and that's for some general funds of the school district. And the district also utilizes 2 other investment providers, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And in addition, we serve as an investment advisor, and the securities that we purchase on behalf of the school district, U.S. Bank, serves as a third-party custodian for those funds. So that's a little bit of background about the account. Also, just a little bit of a review here about how the district can invest funds and the investment objectives of those. The district has 3 main investment objectives when investing funds. Keep those in order, and you keep yourself out of the newspaper. It's safety of principal, it's liquidity, and it's market rate of return. Keeping those in order, again, keeps us out of the newspaper. A comment that I like to make is that none of us are going to be in the newspaper for making an extra penny, but we'll all be in the newspaper if we lose a penny. So we have to keep that in mind as we're investing funds. Safety of principal is paramount. On the next slide there, just a review of the permitted investments under the Ohio Revised Code and the investment policy of the school district. The school district has an investment policy that was last revised in July of 2016. And what does that include? That includes local bank products such as checking accounts, sweep accounts, CDs, the Star Ohio account, which is the state-run investment pool, treasury securities, government agencies. It can include municipal bonds, and the Ohio Revised Code does include commercial paper. However, it is the board's decision to not own commercial paper here, and we're not going down that path tonight because we've talked about it. But it is an allowable option, but not under any investment policy here. The longest maturity of any one investment is 5 years when you're purchasing funds. So that's what the permitted investments are. What's going on in the great world of the economy that's affecting interest rates? There's a lot of news out there. The U.S. economy is moving sideways at best. So one day there's good news and the next day there's not. If it's any type of litmus about our economy, there were 1 million semi-trucks coming up here on 71. I don't know if any indication of what's going on out there. Maybe they're replenishing the shelves for a Christmas shopping season, but there certainly was a lot of traffic, a lot of semi-trucks out there. So if that is some type of leading indicator of the economy, we're in good shape on that. But retail sales are mixed out there, so continue shopping out there if you can to help out the economy. Globally, there's bigger issues globally beyond our borders here in the United States as it relates to an economic slowdown. There are some positive points, and that really sets in the job markets. If you paid attention to some news recently, we posted a very big number with new jobs being added into our economy. 266,000 new jobs were added into our economy. And actually that marks the 110th straight month of positive job creation in our economy. So almost 10 years worth of positive months. So that's really good news. That's a historic trend as well. So that is, there's the naysayers out there that we're seeing this issue in the job market, but that hasn't arrived yet, and that the unemployment rate does remain low. Inflation is another concern, obviously, in the markets, but it's been muted. They've been looking for inflation now for the past 10 plus years, and it just hasn't arrived at the door yet. So it remains under 2%, but it is and will be continued to be watched. The bigger picture out there is actually what happened in the interest rate market over the past 12 months. It simply collapsed over the past 12 months. Interest rates fell dramatically. And I look back through my notes from last year, and I was here kind of around the same time. And the story then in the market and from the Federal Reserve is they were raising interest rates last December. So I stood here and told you the Federal Reserve raised interest rates, and their prediction was that they were going to continue raising interest rates throughout 2019. That couldn't be more of a different story of what happened. Since they met last December, they actually cut interest rates 3 times. So if the Federal Reserve and all the smart folks there and their think tanks can't get it right, what are we supposed to be doing here in Ohio? But there was a collapse in interest rates over the past 12 months. The Fed did drop interest rates 3 times. That caused all interest rates to fall pretty soundly over the past year. And you can see that on the right side of the page there in the column of it, just how far interest rates fell from this time last year. One number that we pay particularly close attention to is the 2-year U.S. Treasury. When I was here last year, it was sitting around at 260, 280. At 280, it's a 160 now. That's a 120 basis point move. That's pretty significant. Assuming they were thinking rates were going up last year. And all across the curve, interest rates fell. So that certainly is playing in the minds of investors out there. I know plays in the mind as to David as the treasurer as he's working on 5-year forecast and potential interest earnings. But we'll talk about that in a moment as it relates to interest rates. Any questions on the economy or interest, where we're at with interest rates? I'm not making a prediction because if I made a prediction last year, obviously I'd have been wrong. I should take the contrarian view and say interest rates are going to go the different direction. But the Fed did state last week, for what it means, that they were not going to make any changes in 2020. So,
Ryan,
yes.
I know we don't have commercial paper, but just out of curiosity, what is the interest for commercial paper right now?
Interest rates in the commercial paper market did follow suit with the further drop in interest rates across the curve. And interest rates in the commercial paper market are anywhere from a 160 to a 180 in today's market. So the district certainly is not losing any type of interest and revenue potential over that. It does offer flexibility with different investment options, but you're not getting 5% on commercial paper out there. But thank you for bringing that up.
Brian, I always have a concern with the impeachment. Is that something to be worried about? Like we're going to have to do something different? Is that a concern of yours if that thing goes through?
I'll note that here when I sum this up, but it is a headwind in the markets. That along with the presidential election throughout 2020. I certainly don't want to get into any type of political discussion about where the impeachment is going. Yeah. But it is playing on the minds of investors out there. I will say that the markets really they're paying more attention to the tariffs and other matters out there more than the impeachment pending. So if something happens and he would happen to get impeached, that may have a bigger effect on the market. But right now, it doesn't seem like the market is paying that much attention to it. It is the news is certainly at nauseum at times about what that's going on. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment, Ron. Just a quick overview of all the district's funds. As I mentioned earlier, the district utilizes a couple different investment providers for investments. I mentioned the Red Tree investment portfolio. That portfolio is comprised only of U.S. Treasuries and agency securities only. David utilizes the services of Fifth Third Bank and multi-bank securities. Those are brokers where David deals directly with them. And those portfolios have a little bit of a mix of agencies and certificates of deposit. And the reason we do not purchase certificates of deposit is that David has many different CDs out there, and it's very, very hard to keep track of the FDIC insurance. So we just stay out of the weeds with that. It's just best for us to keep to our lane with treasurers and agencies, and let David keep his spreadsheets up to date with the FDIC out there on that. The portfolio, and also the district uses Star Ohio for some of its cash needs. Overall, the total investments is right around $70 million. If you commingle all the investments together, the overall yield is right around a 2.08, with an average maturity of around a 140. I will point out, and I had talked to David about this at various times, but given the drop in interest rates over the next 12 months, you can maybe expect your interest earnings not to be as grand as they were this year. Just as a matter of just where Star Ohio is right now, for example. Star Ohio is around a 182 today. This time last year it was pushing 2.5. So that's easy math. You're not going to get as much interest on that out there. And also, David, I have up here November numbers, and when I was here last year, we had October numbers. And the total investments from this time from when I was here last year is down about $12 million. And that may have to do with like some debt payments that you would have made in November that would have brought that balance down for that. But if you're going to get to that later, I'll let you talk about that. But just keep in mind that you may not see, it shouldn't be too far off, and I'll talk about how the portfolios are structured here, but interest earnings will be down a bit, just as the nature of where interest rates are. The next page is a snapshot of the portfolio that we assist on. Some statistics year over year. The current yield of the portfolio that we assist on is a 201. This time last year was a 167, so it's increased over the year. We had about 30% of the portfolio that matured. If you remember that discussion last year, we had a lot of lower yielding securities. Over this past year, we have worked to extend the average maturity in the portfolio. This time last year it was right around a year. Now it's pushing 2. And why did we do that? That whole discussion there about the collapse in interest rates. We wanted to lock some rates in while we could, and keep that higher interest stream as long as we possibly could. So this portfolio, you'll actually see a higher interest income stream out there. It's just and the portfolio is a mix of treasuries and agencies with maturities between kind of next month and 5 years out there. Is a wide mix of securities. But we did extend, and David did as well with his other investments out there. So there was a drop in interest rates, and you are going to see lower interest rates, but you're not going to see it like completely just fall to the bottom out there because of how the portfolios are structured out there. The next page is an inventory of the investments. Again, it's made up of government agencies and treasury securities. We have a few legacy securities that we purchased a couple of years ago that we're trying to get off the portfolio that have lower yields, and that will happen soon. But the portfolio overall is in a good shape to weather the storm of the lower interest rate environment that we're in right now out there. I like how it's positioned. And then not lastly, next is this a historic yield comparison. This is a chart we usually share with you about how the portfolio's yield has changed over the past couple of years. This started back in June of 2014. The red line shows Star Ohio, the yield of Star Ohio, and the green line shows the yield of the portfolio. And again, if you throw that all in a bag, what was the average of that? Star Ohio's yield average was a 106 compared to the portfolio of 130. And this is textbook, folks. This yield up here, or how that goes, is completely textbook. And through June of 2014 up to 2017, we were in a lower interest rate environment, and we had the portfolio longer. And then when they started raising interest rates, we had to hold on to those securities. But Star Ohio was able to take advantage of higher rates. So Star Ohio was able to jump ahead of us, and now we're back. Star Ohio is not able to lock in interest rates, and you are. So this is actually textbook about how investing fixed income securities goes out there. It's a you know, I wouldn't say a roller coaster, but it's some hills and bumps out there. What's that? Well, it is textbook. So that's what we want to, you know, see. Obviously, none of us are ever going to be able to time the market exactly. I wish I could. We would all be in Florida. I'd take everybody to Florida if I could come. But we can't, and we want to be able to have a chart that looks similar to that. Any questions on that before we move on to kind of looking ahead? Well, looking ahead and where we're at, as the crystal ball goes, we did make a lot of changes in the portfolio. David made changes in the other investment portfolios that he works on. Again, it's lengthening that portfolio to mitigate reinvestment rate risk. That's what happens when interest rate falls. It's what's called reinvestment rate risk, is investing in a different environment. It's to protect principal and provide liquidity. And, you know, I should add here that we don't make bets in the market. It's for a balanced portfolio here. It's for a portfolio, again, to meet the objectives: safety, principal, liquidity, and a market rate of return. We're not here to make bets and walk forecasts out there. That's the last thing you want out of an investment advisor for public funds. It's going to be a mix. It's going to offer stability over time, and there are going to be days that we're much higher than the money markets, and there's going to be days where, but you know, we want to, when it's all said and done, we're going to average out more out there. You know, as we move forward, the headwinds, for lack of better terms, that we're going to be facing in 2020, and Ron, as you mentioned there, the potential impeachment certainly is a headwind that we could face in the markets. The presidential election and that just ongoing chatter with what's going to happen here and over the next 12 months, or 11 months, I should say, will weigh heavy on the markets. And this ongoing off-again trade deal with China, is it on, is it off? Where we're at with that, that is playing in the minds of investors, and especially in the equity markets out there. About even last week, you know, they thought the trade deal was on, trade deal was off, and the markets were all over the board with that. So there is a lot of volatility as it relates to that. But those are kind of the big headwinds that we're facing in 2020 that we know of right now as we move forward. So, any questions about looking ahead and the investments of the school district's funds? Nothing? Usually you're a lively crowd with all the investment questions. No questions?
No, but thank you for coming out, Ryan. We
Thank you
always
very
do
much. I
appreciate
it. Good luck
your.
To all in 2020, and have a very, very happy holiday and a cheerful cheers to New Year. Thank you. Thank you, David.
Okay, here I'm still on, so going to go through our financial summaries. The district bank balance dropped $10.19 million in November to $73.414 million. It's $2.2 million below last year at this time. General fund revenues were above last November by $797,000. Real property, public utility, personal property, and property tax allocation account for the increase. Current collection of residential, real property, and public utility property funds make up the majority of this increase. General fund expenditures were above last November by $2.7 million. Personnel services, benefits, purchase services, and capital outlay contribute to the increase, which all relate to the strategic plan and summer property improvements. The sales tax fund balance is down $2.6 million. The district spent approximately $1.5 million in November. The largest portion was on the COPS principal and interest, construction of Northrop Trail, and transportation lot improvements. So this is part of the reason that we're below last year, what Ryan was talking about before. We have our Rec Center Capital Fund. The balance remained at $105,000. The reason is that we had nothing going on in November for the Rec Center, which I found hard to believe, so I had to double take on that, ask both my accounts payable and my accounts receivable persons, and they both agreed that no, nothing went on. The district has received $93,400 in investment income in November. The total collected for the current fiscal year is approximately $42,000 below last year at this time, which, again, Ryan hit upon with the lower interest rates as compared to last year. This is, let's see, the total is approximately $3,000 above fiscal year, all of fiscal year 2017. So we're still above that time, but below last year. And finally, the district general fund true days cash is estimated to be around 242 days. This is down from October by 19.9 days and below last year by 20.7 days. So we are still following our trend of what we told the community, that we're going to be using our balances, but increasing our programming here at the school district. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Any board communications this evening?
Mr. Ross, I've got a couple things. First, I had the opportunity last week, was invited to go to Dr. Justin Brantner's class, and he was had his students doing a presentation on different diabetic treatments they'd come up with for a project. And it was like a different type of insulin pump and other new strategies, including genetic work with stem cells and everything. And I just want to say the kids did a phenomenal job in their presentations, and I was very impressed with the work that Dr. Brantner and Vicki Medlock are doing with the students, and it was a great opportunity. Also have a few comments about Mr. Eastwood, and if right now is appropriate, I'd like to read those to you real quick. It's been a pleasure serving with Mr. Eastwood. I've had the privilege of being able to vote for him twice. I voted to appoint him as a board member in January 2014 when we had a vacancy, and again in 2016 during the regular election. In January 2014, the entire board had changed over from the start of 2013, and the district was going through quite a bit of turmoil. Tom Cahalan and Doug Adamczyk and myself felt that Mr. Eastwood, being a small business owner of Medina Excavating, had a special ability of knowing old Medina, but also an ability to reach out to those who were disgruntled with the decisions of the prior board. I believe Mr. Eastwood has helped us move in the direction of transparency and more toward a more collaborative approach with leadership. Doug has been a part of hiring both our treasurer and our superintendent. Doug also served as president of the board in 2017 and did a great job that year. Doug is a former Medina High School. He's a football player. He's an alum. He has a passion for sports, has devoted a lot of his attention to the sports teams, including the women's basketball team, going to all their games, home and away. Doug is a loyal friend and trusted confidant. Doug appreciates people not so much for their degrees and awards, but for their hard work and passion. Doug is a person of strong Christian character and lives out the principles of love and forgiveness. Doug will be missed by this board and this board member. I want to thank him for making himself available over the last 6 years, as we had many discussions prior, during, and after board meetings on the matters that were pending. Thank you, Mr. Eastwood, for serving the Medina City School District. Thank you.
Just a couple of things. Our December Finance Committee meeting, we actually moved to tonight. We had invited our Finance Committee committee members here to listen to Ryan's presentation. So that won't be happening later this week. And my few words to Doug, and I will make him a few. Mr. Eastwood was the first person that I met on the board. It was at a parent ed camp, and you were in the cafeteria, and I sat down with you, and he just, from the very beginning, you have always made me feel so welcomed. You are a tremendous mentor. You give such a great perspective on every matter. Your due diligence from looking at a situation from every perspective, and sharing that with your fellow board members, it is a gift for sure. You're always willing to go the extra mile. As I said, you've been a tremendous mentor to me, and I am going to miss you very much. Thank you for everything.
I'm gonna start crying. I wrote something, and it's from my heart, and it's truly an honor working with you, Doug. So I'm going to read it to make sure I don't miss anything. So if it looks like I'm reading it, it's not shallow. I just want to make sure that I say everything. But it's been truly an honor working with you, Doug Eastwood, as a member of our Board of Education. During your 6-year tenure, we've accomplished many positive changes, making our school district better for our staff, our students, and our community. You've been very insightful, contributing much expertise and wisdom on many projects and in making a lot of decisions. You've taught me a great deal in my journey as a board member, and I will always remember your level-headed thinking, your straightforward approach to problem solving, and your teary-eyed passion for your Medina City School District. The Board of Education, our staff and community are going to miss you. As we move forward, we do appreciate Mr. Hilberg, Brian's here in attendance, stepping up to serve and being elected by our community. We all are going to continue to work together and move our school district in a positive direction. And we will always remember the contributions made by yourself, and we're going to reach out to you whenever we need your advice and counsel. I'm sure I'll be calling you for something. Yeah, you know it. Thank you, Doug, for your service to our community, to our school district staff, and as you saw, the staff really appreciates everything you've done, and to the children of Medina. We truly appreciate all of your years on the board, and I just want to say God bless you and your entire family, and have a great holiday. And I have another board communication. I don't want to forget this. And you will, Doug, I know it's your night, but I know you will appreciate this. A lot of times our speech and debate team gets, it's one of the best speech and debate programs in the country. And as a result of that, Mr. Quaid was nominated for entry into the Ohio Speech and Debate Association Hall of Fame, and which is a huge honor. And that's going to happen sometime this spring. I'm not sure when, but it's going to happen. So I just want to congratulate Mr. Quaid, and I know the board feels a huge congratulations as well, along with the staff. So thank you.
The policy committee met last week, and as you'll see on the agenda tonight, we have the policies up for a second reading. We have a couple other policies that will be coming up for probably a first reading in 2020. The curriculum committee has met twice since our last board meeting, just due to how the calendar was working out. We discussed updates on one-to-one technology initiatives, the CEO program, which is the job shadowing program that we're implementing at the high school. We're really excited about that. I believe we have 7 students interested so far, and we hope to continue to grow that. We also talked about teaming, which we discussed at our last work session, and the upcoming Parent Ed Camp, which is in January on College and Career Night. So I encourage everyone to check that out. I know I'm looking forward to that. And now my turn to acknowledge Mr. Eastwood. Mr. Eastwood has been a dedicated public servant, always putting the best interests of our students first. He has served with an open mind and has always been willing to listen, to anyone and always with a calm demeanor. We will miss his experience on the board and on the facilities committee and his willingness to help in whatever capacity necessary. And he has always done that with a smile on his face. He loves to serve. I thank you for being a role model for many. I thank you for being a colleague and a friend. And I thank you for helping me to be a better version of myself. Thank you.
If I could just take a minute, try to get through this. Tonight's been a lot of things, nice things said, and I appreciate it greatly. Lord knows we're not here for Doug Eastwood. Tonight it's another board meeting, and it's for Medina City School Districts. But being the last meeting in the position I'm at right at the moment, I'd like to take just a couple minutes and summarize some thoughts for you and maybe lay out some ideas for member-elect Brian. Share some ideas of things to think about as you get ready to move forward in your term. 6 years ago, like Rob said, we were in a pretty good turmoil and coming out of something that was very difficult. I'm thankful for those who asked me to consider applying for the appointment. I often thought I'd be too busy, but then it said, if not you, who? If not now, when? And so moving forward, thankful for the board members then new at their term who trusted me with the appointment, Rob being one of them. It was a moving time, and it wasn't really something that you could look at jumping in excited because you knew there was going to be challenges. But then again, that is why you get excited, because there's challenges and there's, the quality of people in this community. I'm thankful for Medina City Schools team for stepping up and taking on the challenge. I'm thankful for the then icon and continued icon, Dave Knight, for having an opportunity to serve with him and to see how masterful he could be at helping people come together. And words can't put that into play. He was here at a time we needed him to do something that needed to be done. Forever be thankful for that. And for the community, super thankful and humbled at being elected for the opportunity during that election to serve for another 4 years after my 2-year appointment. Again, just it's awesome to be able to represent people, and it's imperative to remember you're here representing people. It's not about us. It's not about an agenda. It's about making things better for Medina City Schools, and I'm thankful to be a part of that. My goals, simply to plug myself into a system where it could hopefully be used to help a healing process for a hurting and angry community, to help heal a healing process with the staff who were hurting and feeling angry and betrayed. I feel that we have made leaps and bounds in the right direction in that regard. And I will always say there's room for improvement, and never be content with either where we're at with the community, where we're at with our staff, our certified staff or support staff. We need to continually work at fostering that relationship and letting them know that we're behind them with everything that we can, and we have our restrictions, but we want the very best for the kids, and in order for that to happen, you have to have all the elements, community, staff, and students in a balance. It wasn't always great. Things I failed in, still feel kind of like it didn't get where I needed to be. Tracy Javelkian and I visited schools years ago to try to help with the air conditioning dilemma. I remember walking through the halls of Claggett. I didn't sweat. I mean, I didn't perspire. I sweat. And some of the staff there remember to this day what that looked like in my two-tone blue shirts. But it made an impression, and we did get some help. It wasn't the total answer. It's not the total answer, and I hope and pray that we'll be able to get there to help them do the job and give them the tools they can to educate and to be effective. So there's work to be had there. Some proper accolades for staff that I failed to do. I'll still push to do that from other directions, but there's some people out here who have served who I feel deserve to be acknowledged, and look forward to helping that happen. The academic achievements, been looking forward to seeing how that can get placed, so when visitors visit our school, not only can they see some of the amazing athletes that we've had crest the walls of our establishment, but they'll be able to see the academic achievements and those who worked at that. I think that's huge and important, and I know that our staff is working in that direction. And again, like I said, a better harmony, continued work within our district and the community. High points, simply put, we have as a board basically two huge jobs. One is hiring a superintendent, and one is hiring a treasurer. I think we got two top-notch people, and I'm thankful for that, for both of you. Your service, your continued service, and I know as time moves forward that we're in good hands in that department. So I feel that that's a huge accomplishment for this board, and to be a part of that was great. Sitting on this side of the table to see a glimpse of the staff, the high-quality staff we have, the administration, the certified staff, the support staff, you just don't see it when you're not involved like you are on this side. I didn't see it. So I came in with some expectations, and small business person, you fix things. Well, it doesn't always work like that as direct, but what I did see is we have some absolutely amazing people working here that we need to be thankful for, and I am thankful for. The hours they put in, it's not a 9-to-5 job, and they don't make it out to be a 9-to-5 job. They're committed to the young people of the schools, not just for seeing that they get a better grade in a class, but that they're better people. I have been involved in some of the athletics, and that's been a highlight, to see kids' lives changed because somebody cares enough to spend time with them. Not just about the school, not just about the sport, but just show that they matter. And that's what it's about, and I think that's what this board gets, is that kids matter, and they all matter. We want and need to continue to engage our students so that we can help them with their walk in life, whether it's through further education or a career engagement. One highlight, I'm not going to lie, was being able to hand my daughters their diplomas. Being on stage with them was beyond cool, and I am thrilled to have that memory and to be a part. Most of all, and I'll wrap this up, and I apologize for dragging this on, but I know that the district's in good hands, that this board knows how to function from a governing balance. It's not a direct intervention, but through policy and practice. And like Mr. Sable said, we don't always agree. And a lot of that happens behind closed doors, and that's okay. The good thing is when we get out and we're together on something, and we're doing it for the district, we're doing it for the kids and for the staff and for the community. It's not just, you can't pick any one of those, it's for everything. And I'm confident that moving forward, you guys are a fantastic unit. You're going to keep going, and I'm excited for Brian to be joining that group. And while he's heard some of this stuff, I'm hoping that we can encourage and challenge him on his next steps as well. So for all these things, I say thank you.
Well said, Doug. Thank you for sharing.
At this time, I'd like to invite Claggett up to the podium for their presentation this evening.
If they're still here.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone here for inviting us out tonight. And as the students are coming in, they have some things to share with the board members. So I've asked them to go ahead and bring their objects out and kind of place them in front of you as we introduce them.
That's cool.
Come on up, you can set them down in front of the board members.
Can we play? Can we play also?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Here we go. Thank you. Oh, there we go.
That's pretty nice. Yeah.
There we go.
So tonight's presentation is about enrichment and extending learning activities. I reached out to Kelly McLaren Owen, who is our gifted intervention specialist that you were so kind to have provided us with this year. And so for the majority of this year, she has been enriching students' activities in their classrooms. She's been bringing classrooms down to the library and the makerspace, and she's also gone into classrooms to help not only gifted students, but all students in the classroom. So this is a presentation about using the tools, not about Makerspace, but about using the tools within Makerspace to enrich the students and their academics. So without any further ado, I'd like to first of all thank Kelly McLaren Olin and Mrs. Susie Halley. She is one of our 6th grade math teachers, and invite them to the podium. Thank you.
We're going to start. We're just going to go ahead and start with the video so that you can get a visual on everything that's been going on, and then some students are going to share, and that's what we're going to do. So
escape a haunted house.
And how are you doing that?
By using math.
What kind of math?
Well, a lot, I think. Area.
Area. Have you hit any roadblocks?
Yes.
What was your roadblock?
We didn't really know what we were supposed to be.
Everything? Be more specific.
We didn't. There was no instructions, so we had no idea what we were doing.
So you had to figure it out on your own. How did you solve the problem in 2 different ways?
Yes.
Yes.
Explain.
I looked up how to find the area of a rectangle.
I made the triangle into like a square. Then I took away the missing parts.
Did you know the formula before you did that for the area of a triangle?
No, I did not.
I did look it up.
Okay.
I did not.
Way to use your resources and your brain wisely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Keep at it.
Macbeth realizes that he must be more practiced about getting the throne. Macbeth doesn't become king, however. The king's son, Malcolm, does. Macbeth realizes that he must be more proactive about getting the throne. killed by anyone born of a woman.
Oh, so no worries about Macduff.
You won't be bakers till the forest comes to you.
That'll be the day. Hey, Bangle, why are we walking aimlessly in a forest?
Guess what? What? The king just made you lose that quarter. Really? Yeah. Oh, well done, Macbeth.
That hurt.
I know, I really.
Right there, and y'all running towards them. And y'all freely walking away too.
I think that the soldiers were better equipped than Washington soldiers. They forced the Continental Army to retreat.
And look at him just walking in the woods.
Patriots and supplies. Where did you wonder where these battles?
And then y'all reload too slow. Like y'all need some better guns. It's hot.
Here. Here.
Photons, electrons, and neutrons, freezing and melting, volume and weight, gases and solids and liquids and compounds, hetero and homo, mass and mixture, boiling and evaporation. But wait, what about matter? Well, what do these all mean? Well, atoms are the smallest elements. Photons have positive charge, electrons have negative charge, neutrons have no charge at all, ha. Freezing is liquid to solid, melting is solid too. Matter is everything, and we are made of matter. Matter is what takes up space. A molecule is the smallest unit of a compound that keeps all the properties. Now the ladder hop has begun. A solid, a liquid, and a gas. They're all states of matter. A solid has a definite shape and a volume, and a liquid has a volume, but not a definite shape. Has no volume or shape. That's what a gas is, yeah. A volume is the amount of space that an object takes up or occupies. Density is the mass divided by volume. That's the matter rock.
What's your idea?
I'm gonna have the ball launch into it from over here. It's gonna go in, so then I have a little bit of time. Enough more things for the ball.
How are you going to get enough power to get it going up? Because this is going to be pretty steep.
I'm probably gonna use the spring and that nail.
I like that spring. Yep, that's a good idea. I'm excited to see how it finishes up.
And then what's this? A bounce, bounce, bounce? Yeah. Very cool. Are you gonna put more of those in? Yeah. What do you think you're gonna call these, like barriers or?
Logan, I think I don't know.
Whatever they're called. Pinball. Pinball. The supplies come out.
I don't really know, but I know she's talking about angles and stuff, and Yeah.
Something about algebra.
Where's Mrs. Howard?
Something about algebra.
Do you see yourself creating angles?
Yeah.
Where do you see angles?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. And why do you think that's important to this pinball machine?
So the ball can roll.
In different directions?
Yeah.
Okay. That's great.
Okay, so those were some students who were working with some courageous teachers who wanted to try some new things, and we've had a lot of fun this year. I would like to introduce Mrs. Halley and Carson Henning, who want to talk to you a little bit how the pinball machine activity came about, because it was pretty amazing how it just all came together with Makerspace. And go ahead.
So it all started when I was on my iPad for too long again. So the good mother that my mom is, she told me to get off it. So I did. I was thinking of what to do when I came across a box and some marshmallows, and I ended up making this. Well, yeah, it's supposed to go in your mouth, but the next day I showed my class, and Mrs. Halley knew that we could improve my pinball machine thing. So.
Good evening. My name is Susie Haley. I'm Carson's math teacher. I also brought two of my other students, Andrew Bridges and Logan Nanandel. So I'm going to pick up the story where Carson left off. So the day before, we were showing a TED Talk in our classroom, and it was titled, Why is it important to make useless things? And of course, the internet kind of glitched that day, and while we were waiting for the video to play, that's when Carson shared with us about the pinball machine that he had made. So I thought that sounded really cool, and I asked him to bring it in, and he showed us how it worked, and I thought, I think we can make this better. I think we could do better. So little did I know in that moment that we would create a 5-day project. I called Mrs. McLaren-Olin, and she suggested that we go work in the makerspace. I also didn't realize at that moment that we would be learning about having conversations about kinetic and potential energy, having conversations about physics and acceleration and friction and angles. I didn't know at that moment that I would be able to tie in so many 6th grade learning standards. We talked about geometry and statistics, algebra, and Carson created an experience for us, learning that was so authentic and so spontaneous that I don't think I could have sat down and planned a unit if I tried the way it worked out. So while we never got around to seeing the end of the video, why it's important to make useless things, the students learned it firsthand. So we did have some time to reflect, and Carson is going to share with us some of the reasons why the students and Carson thought that it is important to make useless things. So he's going to share that with us.
Okay, so we wrote that it can help you get an open mind to new ideas. You can be more creative in future life situations. You can have fun and use creative. You can use your creativity and imagination. Useless things may become useful. It gives your brain. Your brain can create good ideas, and it makes your brain think outside of the box. We would now like to invite you up to test our pinball machines. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
And right before we do that, I would like to kind of give a shout out to Anaya Mathis, and Jeanette Thompson was her partner, and Anaya is here, and she was our first video green screen parody that we had done, and the girls did a great job. They didn't know what all it was going to entail. In one class period, they took what they had done downstairs and had it together and created that final project. They helped find the backdrop. The one thing I did want you to notice, and it didn't quite show it during the video, but the picture, when we're talking about the Shakespeare one, that was the initial one also, and those students were, let me get their names, it's Logan Jones, Sophia Young, and I know them all, Avery Henry. The image was the first thing that we took and downloaded, and we took the video then just on a regular camera on my phone a lot of the time, because that's what we had available. And then in Do Ink, the app, we put it all together for the green screen effect. And they learned about chroma key, and that's involving the green background and how you, they're able to see the people and what they want, what we want to be able to see in front of the screen, and only able to see the background where we want to see the background based on the screen behind them. So those three did the Shakespeare thing, and we showed the image first, and then it went into the video. So that's why it looked like there was just a picture that floated into the video, but those were actually two separate parts of the final project. Austin Purdue is right over here, and he was the young man who was part of the group that did the Jingle Bell Rock parody, and they did a fabulous job also. And the parody kids are also here to answer any questions about the whole process of doing their project also. So they'll be up here, and the only other thing I guess I would like to say is it's been quite an adventure and pretty exciting this year to be able to be a part of the Claggett staff. I've really enjoyed taking what I see as a makerspace, and kind of the goal that I have is a maker building, and it's just taking what we've got and the resources we have within the makerspace and showing everyone, the students and the teachers, what we can do with them. Another way in which this had happened kind of differently than the way it did with Mrs. Halley, but and Mrs. Glazier, but similar, there were some 8th grade students in Makerspace, and they were on the Oculus goggles, and I would walk around and kind of practice all their names because I'm trying to get to know all the Claggett students' names this year. It's lofty, but I'm getting to know a lot of them. Anyways, I asked one of the students, what are you studying in history? And he told me, and I went and looked at the standards and found what it was, and then Mr. Gilmore, Chad Gilmore, was able to look up a 360-degree YouTube video on the Revolutionary War, and that's how we started getting 8th grade students in and out. And from there, the Oculus goggles have just gone wild. Our next thing that we are really looking into branching out with into classrooms is the Merge Cube. So keep your eyes out for that. It's pretty amazing. It's 3-dimensional. You can do, in co-spaces, you can create virtual reality, like museums. The kids design them and use computer programming, coding to create their own museum or whatever it is they want to create in their virtual reality space. And then we can automatically upload them into the 3D goggles so the kids create their own virtual reality experience and their classmates can see that. So that's the next thing that's up and coming, but it's basically one step at a time, getting inquiry-based learning, along with all of the resources that we have in the makerspace out into the building. And we've made great headway, and the teachers have been great, and the students have been phenomenal. So go ahead, kids, and you can go stand near your pinball machine, or video kids come on with me, and we'll go up and we'll talk to board members and answer any questions that they have. Does anyone else want to say anything in the microphone before we go up? All right. Head out here. Just wanted to check. So if you have a machine, go ahead to your machine, and if you don't have a machine, we're going to go to the people who don't have a machine in front of them. So you
Who built this one? Did Kelly build this one?
These two, the girls sitting.
Aw. They're neat.
Very cool. But they have the best launcher. You put it in there. Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is cool.
That is neat.
Very cool.
They were trying to get these to work, but I think they decided to
Okay.
the paddles were the hardest part about this.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool.
So the TED Talk, what, did you just happen to come across it, or were you at it, or? Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I'm going to go look it up and listen to it. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Okay. Oh.
I could use that.
That's funny.
That would get me out.
But she said that she was such a perfectionist that she wasn't being successful. But then when she let her guard down and say like that like she would fail, that's when she became successful. And now she's pretty well known as she's a speaker. She goes around.
I think there's so much, you're trying to solve a problem, you can't figure out the answer to it, and you go do something, whether it's running or whether it's doing a puzzle or doing something. But yeah, your mind is in a whole different, yeah, absolutely.
Well, and thank you for embracing just his idea. I just thought it was really exciting. It kind of went off course, but there were standards, there was learning. To try to have the courage to pursue this other avenue.
How am I gonna like defend this? How am I gonna?
Are you teaching him anything?
Right. And I called Kelly, and she's like, "Oh, we'll do something with angles." And I'm like, "This is only sixth grade," but once we started doing it, that's when we found math. Right. You know, that's when I was like, "Oh, I can do this, and I can do this." And when they had filmed the video, we hadn't done the math yet. They were just kind of tinkering and experimenting. But even with the math, we had to tinker, and I had actually contacted the physics teacher at the high school, Mr. Krejci, and to help me with the physics, because I was a little rusty.
No, but that's great, especially at tinkering. I have an 8th grader.
There's really nothing besides out here.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Claggett and our Claggett students for coming today and sharing all their hard work in their classrooms. This was a real special presentation. We spent a lot of time the last several years talking about inquiry-based learning and inquiry-based academics. And 3.5 years later, since we've started these initiatives, to be able to show the board and the community what's actually gone into our strategic plan and the strategic planning process and what those kind of outcomes are. I've really been impressed with Claggett and the Claggett staff. They were fortunate to be one of the first buildings to get a makerspace, but they've really run with the topic, and our goal is to get their ideas throughout the entire district, because we do now have makerspaces in all of our buildings. In our high school, it's on deck to go into place. I think Root's just wrapping up getting their makerspace together. But when I'm talking about 21st century learning, and we're talking about the programming that we're going down to Columbus and trying to expand and talk about how we implement, this is actually it. And when you hear about the kind of lessons the students are getting from being creative and applying like they would in the work world, they could be sitting in a classroom taking notes. But the amount they gain from this type of experience that goes beyond just the angles of the math lesson and goes into the science and the physics is exactly the direction we want to go across the district. So thank you, Claggett, very much.
Yes. I just wanted to add, I wanted to thank you all for coming and sharing your projects. And we were out at the Makerspace last year, which was mind-blowing, and now even more so to see how the teachers have embraced it and have taken it back to their classroom. So thank you so much.
That I just thought of is the community outreach that is taking place, and we fortunately have sewing machines that were donated, and this is going to be in the newspapers, I would think, in the next week or so. We have someone coming to pick up, all right, what are they called? Ponchos, thank you. We've made a lot of winter fleece ponchos, and the kids have sewn them all themselves. And someone is coming to pick those up, and we'll do a little photo op with all the kids coming down to the office who've made them, and those are going to be donated to people who need them in the community. So we're looking, and that's a Chad Gilmore initiative so far also. That and Catherine Starr is also, I think she implemented it, and it may have been Chad also, the pockets that go over walkers. So a lot of kids have been sewing those, and those are going to go out to nursing homes or places in where there's a need for those. So I'm really excited about the community outreach and Claggett giving back to the community, because they receive so much from the community. So thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Mr. Chambers.
Yes, if it pleases the board, item number 1, Treasurer's Report. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the November 2019 Treasurer's Report. Supplemental to number 2, supplemental to the 1920 permanent appropriations. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the following supplemental to the 1920 permanent appropriations. These title funds, I've told you before, I'll tell you again, the state is going to be increasing and decreasing as we go. These are monies that they've given since we had our carryover. And so 6B restoration, though, monies were taken. They gave out a lot of monies last year, and the district was with what we had as our final expenditure report, they felt that we needed less this year, but we're still at roughly $120,000 on there. Fund-to-fund transfer. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the following fund-to-fund transfer. These are the monies that go from the sales tax fund to pay off the principal and interest on the certificate of participation bonds. Return of advances. These monies, item number 4, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following return of advances. These monies were advanced to the title funds and to the Medina JDC here last June. So we're returning the advances, and every dollar is accounted for with these. So we're looking forward to that. Thank you.
I make a motion to approve action items as presented.
I'll second.
Any board discussion on the treasurer's action items? Hearing none. Is there any public discussion related to the treasurer's action items? If you want to speak, come on up to the microphone. Seeing none. Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Sable.
First item up tonight is donations, and coming off the coattails of our Clagget presentation, what I want to point out here is the multiple donations. I think most of these are actually to AI Root. From community members and parents to help establish our makerspaces and our makerspacer programs in our schools. Like was said during the presentation, the amount of community outreach that's really developed around this program has been impressive, and it's been really a community collaboration in making these makerspaces happen. And one thing that I think you really saw here as well, and one thing we talk about, is in order for educators to be great teachers, you have to continue to learn. And you can see the amount that our teachers are learning going through this process and the excitement it's bringing into their classrooms. Number 2 is a whole list of policies that were reviewed at our last regular meeting. These policies are being recommended for a second time with the possible adoption. The following new revised and reissued policies as follows. None of these are new policies. These are all regular updates to the various policies. Number 3 is a stipend payment through Kent State. I know you've seen these before. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the stipend payment to Cynthia Marquetz in the amount of $375 from Kent State for being a cooperating teacher for a Kent State University student teacher during the fall semester of 19. Number 4 is an agreement for the Evolve Academy. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the agreement that students placed at Evolve Academy will be provided educational services by the Medina City Schools for the district listed. And it's for Tri-Way local schools. As you know, we provide services through Evolve through multiple districts in the area, and that's what allows Evolve Academy to be self-sufficient. Number 5, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following revised service agreement for the 1920 school year. And this is a service agreement according to special education IEP service requirements. Number 6, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreement for the 1920 school year. And this is again for special education services per student's individual plans. And number 7, we have a couple service agreements listed here. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreement for the 20 calendar year. The first one, Apex Learning. You've seen this every December. This is the online software that we use for credit recovery as well as night school services. I do want to point out that the cost has gone down a little bit. It's $200, but it's $200 less. The second is Education Logistics. This is for programming to support the new bus tracking system that the board approved last school year that is in the process of being implemented in all of our buses. If you haven't already, I would encourage you to stop by our transportation department, and you can see up on a big monitor where every one of our vehicles is. I just talked to Rob Travis, I think a week ago, about this, and we're going to have this ready to roll out to parents by the end of the school year, where they'll actually get notifications when their bus comes within the vicinity of their student being picked up. Number 8 is the substitute rate increases. In order to ensure compliance with an upcoming increase in the Ohio minimum wage, it is recommended that the Board of Education, effective January 1st, 2020, approve the substitute rate for cafeteria servers to be changed from $8.55 to $8.70 per hour. In addition, in order to avoid wage compression and to maintain a competitive position, the following substitute rate increases are also recommended. Cafeteria cook from $8.80 to $9, and cafeteria cashier from $9 to $9.25. And then last but not least is personnel. A few things I want to point out here. The first one, and again, riding off the coattails of Claggett, is we have several STEM supplemental contracts to be awarded across the district. These specifically are for robotics. We will see more heading into next school year, looking at Science Olympiad. Those programs are already deep into their seasons. That's a little late to offer those, but these are a result of our negotiations with MCTA and our matched image of providing more inquiry-based lessons for students and also providing teachers more support with students in making that happen. And we have 2 retirements on the agenda this evening. The first is Casey Jones. Casey is retiring from Medina City Schools on March 1st after 10 years of service to the district. Working at Northrop in the preschool was a second career for Casey that came about after she retired from another public sector job and then started volunteering at Garfield Elementary School. She enjoyed working with students and decided to take the civil service test to work for Medina City Schools. We wish Casey the best in her second retirement. Barb Kaufman is a Medina High School language arts teacher. She's retiring at the end of the school year after teaching at Medina High School for 19 years. Barb spent many years in the district as a parent of 3 Medina High School graduates, as well as subbing many years for Medina City Schools before being hired to work in the high school career-based intervention program in 2000. Barb spent 10 years successfully working with students in this career-based program before reductions moved her to teaching language arts the last 9 years. Barb will be missed equally by her students and her coworkers. Barb plans to spend retirement visiting her out-of-town children and grandchildren. She will still have a close connection to Medina High School as her daughter teaches art at the high school. Best wishes to Barb, and thank you for your years of service. Thank you.
If I can get a motion on the superintendent's action items?
Move we accept those. Make a motion.
Second?
I'd second that.
Any board discussion? Thank you.
I have a question. Just under personnel, there is a general secretary position at St. Francis Xavier. I just wanted to confirm or clarify that's because we act as a pass-through for their title funds, and that's paid with title funds, not public school monies?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody from the community wishing to address the board on the superintendent's action items? Seeing none, Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Skidmore?
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Thank you.
Community members wishing to address the board are asked to abide by the following guidelines. Attendees shall register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. After those that have registered have spoken, if time allows, the board president will ask for public participation from all other attendees. Please state your name, your address, and your affiliation. Please keep your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. And all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer, and no person may address or question board members individually. Hearing or saying that, is there anybody from the community that wishes to address the board this evening? Seeing none? I would like to make a motion that we adjourn, that we go into executive session to consider the employment, discipline, and consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee or official.
I'll second the motion to go in executive session.
Mr. Chambers.
Yes, Mr. Rouse.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. No action will be taken after the executive session. Thank you.